Yeah.
Today we want to talk to you about the one thing you can do today to have a great holiday season. The one thing you can do for your brain to have a great holiday season.
So we actually spend a lot of time writing about this in our book, The Brain Warrior's Way, because it's so important. Learning how to make great decisions, right? So if you learn how to make great decisions, it's going to change the quality of your whole life. And I did a couple of chats on this, and it just makes sense. But if it's so easy, then why aren't people doing it, right?
That's because they don't love their brain. So the first thing you have to do is love your brain. And then, we worked with this group at Stanford on tiny habits. How do people change their behavior? And what's the tiniest brain healthy habit? The tiniest brain healthy habit is the game you and I have played with Chloe since she was 2. So she and I'd put her on my lap. I'd actually show her the scans. I'm like, what do you think? Healthy or not healthy? And the ones that were filled with holes, the alcoholics, the drug addicts, the people who'd been exposed to things like mold or other toxins. Oh, that's not a good brain. And so, you want to love your brain. Why? It's your brain that lets you play. It's your brain that lets you learn. Your brain has fun. Your brain laughs, but it's also your brain that cries and makes you sad and mad. And if your brain works right, you work right. And so we played this game, Chloe's game. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? And so if I said avocado, she would say 2 thumbs up, God's butter. If I said blueberries, later on in life she'd go, are they organic?
Right.
Because non-organic blueberries hold more pesticides than almost any fruit. If I said talking back to your red-headed mother, she would go, oh no, way
Although
too
she was
much
kind of
stress.
good at that. But it sounds really simplistic because she was 2 years old. So we're playing this really simplistic kind of game with her. But
It's not.
believe it
It's
or not,
very sophisticated.
no. And honestly, it pays off because Chloe now does that without even thinking about it, right? So these games pay off. And it's interesting because just to give you a contrast, I was, I've been working with someone recently who struggles with this. She struggles with making good decisions, and she's been in 19 car accidents. And I was driving with her the other day, 19 car accidents, actually 20 now.
And one of them you were in.
I was in, and it was a life-threatening.
Of on your scan.
A life-threatening car accident. And
because when I first met her, I scanned her. That was like the part of her body I wanted to see the most.
No one's ever wanted to see
I already
my
knew
naked
she was
brain. I'm
beautiful.
Like, what?
I wanted to see her
I was
brain.
Like, that's a pretty good line. But anyways, so now this person's been in 20 car accidents, but I was driving, and I'm a very cautious driver. Especially after becoming a trauma nurse. Let me tell you, it changes the way you drive. So I'm driving, and it's raining, and visibility is sort of impeded, and so I'm driving, and we started to make a wrong turn according to my GPS. And so, rather than pulling back into traffic, even though it was probably clear, I make a left turn and then make another left turn. And she goes, why would you do that? Why didn't you just pull back out? And, for her, this is a decision-making process. It seems so simple. My daughter, now flip that around, my daughter who is, she's only 13, and she found out that the driving age might change. It actually might change, and she might not be able to drive until she's like 17, right? 17 and a half. And her friends were all upset, and they were going crazy, and they were not happy about this. And my daughter was actually happy about it. Here's my 13-year-old, and she goes, why are you guys so upset about having another year and a half to drive, before you can drive? She goes, I'm actually happy about it. And they're like, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? She goes, really? She goes, I get to be chauffeured around for another year and a half and not get in not get in a car accident and not get, tickets. And she goes, I'm okay with that. She goes, don't you guys realize that's like a weapon you're driving? And, it's because she thinks differently. She understands decision making, and she understands, that the quality of her decisions affects her life. It's because we've been playing these games with her.
And I was actually on with that same person last night because I coach her as well. And we talked about the 2 most important words when it comes to your health.
Which Chloe does this all the time. She's masterful.
Then what?
Then what?
if I do this, then what happens? If I say this, then what happens? If you don't do that, that's what the front part of your brain does. So your prefrontal cortex, 30% of the human brain. See, she has a lot of hair on her head, so you can't see her. She's hiding her. Mine is out there for everybody to see. It's involved with things like forethought, judgment, impulse control, organization, planning, empathy, learning from the mistakes that you make. And when your prefrontal cortex is low, you just act on impulse, which is why she got into hot water. And you don't want to do that.
No.
You always want to say, well, then what? If I say this, well, then what happens? If I do this, does that serve me or does that hurt me? Ultimately, it's the biggest gift you can give yourself is forethought, judgment, impulse control.
Right. So let's give them like 2 or 3 tips on how they can start making better decisions. I talked about this in my last live chat. So I did it based on mastery, and I told them they could slow down, do some deep breathing, think about then what. That was one of my tips. Let's give them another tip before we go on what they can do right now to start making better decisions.
Sleep. Because, if you don't sleep 7 hours, you have decreased blood flow to your brain, you make more bad decisions. And so one tip to get better sleep is start putting blue light blockers on your phone and on your computer. Because a lot of people, they're just working or entertaining themselves on their computer until they go to bed. But it's the blue-white light that shuts off the production of melatonin in your brain. Make sleep a priority, really important, and then stop getting all that light into your eyes that's turning off melatonin.
And I'm going to add, also think about the quality of the food you put in your body, because if you are spiking your blood sugar and it's crashing, and you're spiking it and it's crashing, so you're feeding a lot of high glycemic foods, low fiber foods, it's going to really affect your decision making as well. In fact, they've done studies in prisons, and this really makes a big difference in the way people think when fights get started. Like, it's a really big deal. So it affects your decision making.
Blood sugar goes low, people get anxious, make more bad decisions.
So the cookbook, The Brain Warrior's Way, the book, The Brain Warrior's Way, and the cookbook, we really went after this idea. So you can actually get those books on brainwarriorsway.com, or you can go to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. But we're really excited about this, and we're going to help you make better decisions. Don't take the months of November and December off. Please don't do that.
Only if you don't like yourself.
Yeah.
See, but it's the holidays. It's like, why are you going to celebrate, your religious tradition by hurting yourself? So then you have to suffer in January. Right. Why don't we all just live in a brain healthy way the whole time? So that's what the Brain Warrior's Way is all about. Can I give another tip?
You can.
So, new study showed that people who eat late at night have a higher incidence of stroke and heart attack. So Ouch. It usually happens when you go to bed is your blood pressure drops about 10%. And as you get sleepy and tired and you're going to go to bed. But if you eat late, your blood pressure does not dip. So they actually call these people non-dippers. I don't want to be a non-dipper. And it puts you at risk for heart attack and stroke. Plus, we're going to talk about intermittent fasting. And it's a process called autophagy. So like autophagy, autophagy. So if you go 12 hours without eating, it turns on a mechanism that actually cleans up the trash that's in your brain.
Oh, thank you. Lisa just shared our video. Thank you so much.
That means if you eat dinner at 7 o'clock, don't eat again until 7 a.m. And that's a brain exercise. How simple is that? But another tip, don't go too long without food.
So Wendy just said that she was moody as a child. This is really interesting. So do you remember when Chloe was a baby? So before that, we really we knew about this mood and blood sugar thing as much as we do now. Now I know I'm evil if I don't eat, but I didn't really. I'm like evil. So, but my daughter, we'd put her down for a nap. She'd wake up and I'd give her a little sippy cup, and unfortunately there was some formula stuff that I thought was healthy at the time. We know now it wasn't as good as we thought it was. But I'd give her this formula, but she would go to bed and she'd take these really long naps and she'd wake up and she would just be so cranky and so upset. And then all of a sudden, we're like, we would look at each other like she would go to bed the nicest kid.
She was evil.
But she would go to bed sweet, and then she would wake up awful. And we're like, what's going on? And we sort of didn't figure it out. Then she would get this, her sippy cup, and all of a sudden she's like happy as can be. And that's how we figured out, the low blood sugar thing. She was going too long. I'm the same way. Oh my God. So yes, Wendy, I understand. So anyways, those are our tips to help you right now make better decisions. And the big thing, don't take the months of November and December off, which by the way...
Only if you don't like yourself.
And by the way...
If you don't like yourself, take them off.
When you
but
tell...
if you like yourself, you want to become a brain warrior now. And
when you tell your kids, we're gonna take the months of November and December off because we don't want to be party poopers, then it's like you're giving them mixed messages. Oh, don't do what all your friends do when they do drugs and they want to do bad things and they want to go drink. Don't do what other people do, but yet you're doing what other people do even though you know it's not good for you. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. Well, guess what? Kids don't do what you say. They do what you do. So be a good example, be a good leader, be a good messenger.
Preach it, sister.
All right.